It has always been. And I want to say thank God to my wife for being with me today. And as always, it's lovely to be sharing a special day tomorrow as well. I'm delighted to be here, very delighted to be here. Precisely when we engaged with the application and had conversation about it, it kind of brought renewal in my journey as a sanctuary service recipient. What I saw in the application brought light into my journey as the sanctuary. And I also saw great people coming together, doing wonderful things that they weren't able to actually shout about. Because I mean, that's the reality of good things. When you do it, the Bible says, let others say. And I'm delighted to see that your application is an example nationally, and it's not surprising because I engage with it personally. I engage with it in conversation and also doing the assessment process. So I have two major instances that I want to share with you that actually got me today here. So sanctuary is my entire life. Also a lost child. And many of you will have heard about Liberia, a small West African country. I was born in the 70s, and I was born from a very good family. We could afford everything, and life was like, yes, the best of everything. And they were never afraid of me getting out or be adopted or captured by any evil forces. On the other hand, they were not Christian. My family were not Christian. They were believing in Indian traditional religion. So there's this kind of forces somewhere that the spirit they believe in. So that's how I grew up to the age of 14. Then one of Africa's bloodiest civil war began in 1989, all the way to 2003. Unfortunately, I had to flee without my family at the age of 14, just about beginning to understand, because my father was a big farmer, so he said, if we're going to school, you must learn life skills, survival skills. So I was there coordinating the farm up to the age of 12 before they sent me to school. So just about learning English for 2 years, and the war broke up. So we had to run from my country, Liberia, to a foreign country in Guinea. And not being a Christian in a very large Muslim country, without your family members, it was something that we cannot explain much. So I spent the last 4 years just hoping to survive. If you don't know, just surviving for the next day is the hardest thing to do. We think it's hard to go to work, but hoping that you can live to see the next day is the difficult task, more than any other thing you can imagine. So that was life. Every day you woke up and said, okay, I'm here today. We don't know what's going to happen the next day. And to just move quickly forward, it was on Christmas Eve, 1994. And it was, I could say, accidental, and there was no plan. It was just young people having, I heard some noise, and blissfully it was a church. And I went to Christmas Eve preparation, and I entered the church. And that was the beginning of a great life and even the career path that I have today. We never get certainty. You cannot be certain of being welcome. You can never be certain of belonging. We can only hope to belong, hope to be welcome. But there was something special that happened on that day. Was that feeling, the feeling that was created in me of belonging, of being welcome, that nobody could explain what it meant. There were people trying to do their best in other ways, but what they left with me was that feeling of belonging. It didn't matter how much they gave me, clothes they gave me, a cup of tea or coffee, but they looked into my eyes and making me to feel belong, and it was a place of safety. From there, it was a time I realized actually that I could sleep believing that I wake up the next morning. It was the beginning of faith, it was the beginning of deeper hope. It was a church in the school building, in the refugee camp, that made me believe that actually there is a God, and Jesus was the way, the truth, and the life. It was the beginning of my Christian journey. It was the beginning of my hope. And since then, I've moved through believing that I can also live to make people feel like that. Not what I do for them, but if I can help one person to feel belong and feel that they are safe in their mind. Whatever happening around them, it was no longer the case. For me, it was no longer the gun sound that was shouting in the night. It was no longer the fear of being captured. It was that feeling that I'm safe, that gave me the bravery to walk on my own and cross the other side. That was what the church did for me. And it's that helped me to grow in the church. It was there that I met my wife in the refugee camp. 29 years, and we stay here because of that feeling of belonging and safety. And since then, I work with the UNHCR, just making sure the refugees and the sanctuary seekers can feel that way. There were food rations, there were shelters for people to sleep, but my prayer was, Lord, help me to make them feel belong. It's not what I give them. And that's a famous quote from Maya Angelou. It's not what people say to you or what they do for you, but how they make you feel. And for me, that is my definition and my foundation of a church of sanctuary, how you make people feel. All the other things are important. If that's the pathway to that place of feeling, that's where we are heading to. And that feeling is the powerhouse that encourages people to stand here and talk about their story. It's not all the other things that we are talking about. So that's, hearing the story here, it's the level of involvement that we have gone. And so, as a 14-year-old child living in the refugee camp with no support, it was a difficult journey. And the next stage in the area of sanctuary was in 2003, the UNHCR, that's the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, is a UN agency that is responsible to protect people who flee their country or internally fear of war or any other persecution. So they decided that my country was not safe, and it was no longer safe for me to stay in my first country of asylum. And they appealed to the UK government to give me a home to come to. And the UK government, through the UNHCR, agreed, and I became one of the first refugees to be resettled on the UNHCR program, the Gateway Protection Program, in the UK 2004. And then it was another movement to come into a country, it's an English country. I've come from French country, I've learned a lot of languages. And again, that feeling gave me the path, church. And I saw myself again in Victoria Hall Methodist Church in Sheffield. And how did they create the feeling? It's more about personalized conversation. What do you hope to achieve, all of this? And I wanted to do more into Christianity. And they gave me scholarship to go to Bible school, and I kept and open and support our community to have a church. So from then, I have been working with the UN and the Home Office for the last 18 years, and I have traveled across Europe as a consultant to support European cities and municipalities to encourage them to make people feel belong. You can do as much as you can do. The best place is when people feel belong, they can contribute. I felt belong into this country since 2004, and I've worked for almost 19 years. It's not enough, I just want to do more. And I've gone across, even in America, to make sure in Canada we meet in Geneva and speak to people and prepare people in the journey of sanctuary. And I was also privileged to be invited by Indigent in 2005 when we had a conversation about a city of sanctuary. And so it was a privilege. And being part of the conversation today we see as a national cities of sanctuary, it still gets me hungrier every day. And I travel around and I just can't feel tired hearing people say, I feel safe, I feel belong, I want to do something for others. And that's my career path. I started with finance, but I'm now in humanitarian and supporting refugees and sanctuary seekers. And that is what I want to do and want to support people. One thing I want to say is that just as we have learned, embed, and share, we also have participation, involvement, and also engagement. the first place for me when I do my professional work is the area of trying to do for, just briefly, but do with, and then let people do, and then they come back to you when they are in need of that help. It is very important. When you reach to the last bit of sharing, it is the point where you have empowered people like me to be able to come here and say, this is how I feel. So whatever we do, we want to arrive at this point. And that can be done in many ways. It's not just about people being brave to stand here, but it can speak in different ways. Finally, I also was invited in Geneva 2008 as a Central Seeker refugee, and I went to the platform and I realized it was just about numbers. Like they were calling refugees that just sit on the table. And the first meeting I observed that was just the case, and I raised my voice in the second meeting. I don't want to be invited here. If they just us coming here, you are discussing where to take refugees from, where we have war, and you are just asking us to come and be a number on the table. I'm not used to being a number. So we kept raising awareness until 2019. The UNHCR, UK Home Office, and the US, and all of them have agreed that instead of having a tripartite where we have the government, the NGO, and the UNHCR, now we have refugees on the table. So it took a long while to do so. So every year we discuss with the UNHCR the journey, what kind of support people may need, because we have lived experience. I lived in the refugee camp for 12 years. And I've worked with refugees and asylum seekers for more than 20 years. I work with UNHCR, so we need to listen to those who are being supported. And that's where you create feeling. All the other things are support and help. So I want to say thank you for the great job that you are doing. And it's already there. And for me, this started years ago, just reading what you're doing. It didn't start today. So this recognition is just testimony, I would say. But you're already doing what you're doing, and I think we can only do better moving forward. Already you have an example nationally for people to look at, and the application, I say, is a difficult one, because sometimes we do so much and we don't put in one piece of paper. But when we engage in assessment, we are looking, we are hearing, and we are feeling. And for me, it resonated straight away, knowing that you are about to open bigger doors and encourage others who are doing something to say something and to make other people to feel better. So thank you so much for this, and I'm very delighted to be here today. This is one of the invitations that I feel so connected with, and I know you're going to do great. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Floyd.